This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, let's get things started tonight. Um, Thank you for those of you that joined us for the call tonight. If you haven't already, if you could, when you add your name to the GoToMeeting invite, if you could just put your club, if you could add your club to the side of it, that would be helpful for me. So I would appreciate that. Thank you very much. With that being said, let's get things
How do
started.
we do that?
You should have a right-click option somewhere on your interface that allows you to add your name to that. If
Yeah, I
you're
clicked the
dialing
link.
in
I
on the
didn't.
phone, you can't.
Yeah, I didn't log in. I just clicked that link and it took me right here. So there's no right.
Okay. Well, just
Right.
send me an email on the side if you wouldn't mind.
Sonoma lacrosse. All right, thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me tonight. This is the first time that we've done this session, and I think it's going to be a reoccurring session that we hold before every year. Mike and I were talking at the delegates meeting over the summer, and we heard that the girls program had been doing this before. We connected the dots, and the two of us said, you know what, we got to get this done and do it for the boys. So this is the first one, but we're going to do these every year. So this is the 2020 rules interpretation or interpretation session. We're going to go through. We'll go through an agenda here and break down the topics we're going to discuss this evening. First of all, we'll cover the introductions. We're going to talk about the NCJLA NCLRA collaboration. We're going to go over the rule sheet briefly. We're not going to go over the rule sheet in detail. More or less, I just want everybody to know that it is out there if you haven't seen it already, and please review it. We're going to cover some of the NFHS and the U.S. lacrosse boys rule changes for this season, which is the main focus of tonight's call. And there's a couple rules, NCJLA rules, that we wanted to clarify. There was a little bit of confusion from last year. So we've broken it down to some pretty simple bullet points, and we've also included those on the rule sheet. And then we'd like to offer you some video resources if you're not familiar with them already. US Lacrosse, NFHS have provided video, some video webinars and a video just released, I don't know if it was today or just recently, which help explain a lot of the rule changes and the points of emphasis that we're going to do this year. And then at the end, we'll leave it open for a little question and answer period. So with that being said, my name is Chris Gerke. I'm the NCJLA Boys Director. Joining me tonight is Mike Forzano, the NCLRA President. He will be he's your expert with all things rules this year. So
Okay.
as with every year, you know, Mike has been great. Mike and his group have been great about offering the opportunity to go out and visit with clubs to go over the rules for the rules for the changes for the season. And with that, that's been fantastic, but we wanted to also try and enhance the opportunities for clubs to get that information if they either couldn't set up a meeting with anyone from the NCLRA, or the schedules just didn't permit. So this webinar is an opportunity to get everybody on the same page as much as we possibly can. Some of the things that we've identified and that we're working on, this year we're going to release a OneDoc that's essentially how to speak to an official. There are just some best practices. You know, everybody knows the golden rule. However, what everybody may not be aware of is during the course of a game, there are opportunities when you should approach an official and when you should not. And so we've come up with just a quick one pager just to review. It's easy to process, about maybe some of the best opportunities for you to discuss and maybe when not to discuss a topic. In all, it's our goal is to try and make the relationship between coaches and officials better and better. And we realize that a lot of the conflicts that exist between coaches and officials are often the result of a misunderstanding of the rules or the rule its application. So trying to bridge that gap is one of the things that Mike and I have really identified and are trying to address this year. Like I said, these web sessions and club visits are designed to help bridge that gap of communication. The more people that are on the same page, the less conflict we believe we'll have. And as a final note to that, both Mike and I work very hard to resolve the issues that take place between coaches and officials throughout the season. So just so everybody knows, and it's on the record, that when things come up, whether it's a coaching issue or an officials issue, Mike and I are the two parties that discuss those items and work on addressing those issues. So just so that you know, your documentation of issues with coaches or issues with officials, when it's reported and reported through the proper channels, is received and reviewed by Mike and I. So it is not falling upon deaf ears. We take every submission seriously, and we want to make sure that everybody knows that we are the two individuals who are meeting together to go over those topics. So this is just the quick rule sheet. I don't expect everybody to be able to read the items on the fine print here, but the deck will be posted on the boys landing page, and the link that you see will take you directly to the rules sheet if that's something you want to link to this way. It's also available in numerous locations on the NCJLA website. So with that being said, Mike has been kind enough to provide us with the presentation that he goes through with his organization that highlights the changes, points of emphasis. And so I've incorporated that PowerPoint into ours for us to go through each one of the items. So Mike, do you want to go through, pick it up from here to kind of go over the specific points we've listed?
I think the first one that you see there this year, finally, the NFHS realizes that putting sportsmanship and conduct last every single year is probably not a good thing to do. Fortunately for us in Northern California, the two organizations, the NCJLA and the NFHS, and the NCLRA, have been working harder at the sportsmanship and conduct issue. The NCJLA, a couple of years ago, we discussed many things, and one of them was the sideline managers. That was one of the, I thought that this past season, 2019, they were very beneficial in curtailing a lot of conduct from the parents. And the coaches were very helpful this year in dealing with sportsmanship issues, especially when it came from the stands or the sidelines. We worked really hard to do that. Okay, and I think that kudos to the clubs for endorsing that aspect of what we do. So they finally put it at the top of the list. That's not to say that player safety is not at the top of the list. It is. We in the NCLRA take pride in the fact that we would much, let me just say that as an official, what we tell our officials is real simple. If we get film, and sometimes that happens, if we see film on player safety where a defenseless player gets hit and there's no flag, that's a problem for us, especially if it fits the rule. We would much prefer, and I tell the officials this every year at our general meeting, we would much prefer to see a flag and no foul was committed, that we looked at the film later on, simply because he threw it, it was safety. If we see a foul that was committed and there's no flag, that's a concern to us, and it's incorporated into our training. So player safety is always up at the top of the list with NFHS, US Lacrosse, and the NCJLA. NCJLA has gone even further than that. Some of the defenseless players issues, when it comes to that kind of contact, it's an ejection. I believe I read that, right, Chris? It's an ejection if they go after a player. So they're definitely committed to the safety. Pace of play. Now, the pace of play, they sent out a survey. I filled it out. They chose to, which this year I fully expect that we will be discussing all throughout the season, because they chose to say that the pace of play will be picked up if the officials, the defenders were allowed to come in. We didn't have to wait for the players to be 5 yards from the player with the ball. But that you'll see later on. We'll probably talk about it. You'll see it in some of the videos. It's still within control of the official. We will go fast as we can, but we won't go with pants on fire, just as the coaches would like us to do. So just please keep that in mind. The game doesn't start unless we blow the whistle. Okay. The future equipment changes are coming up in the horizon. You should know about and should listen to. The goalie is a safety thing, but there are some things going to be coming down about the other equipment, such as shoulder pads. The NFHS clearly, I went to a seminar in Las Vegas, and the NFHS clearly wants them to wear the shoulder pads. It's no longer going to be acceptable that if there's Velcro, they take out their vest and there's Velcro. They want them to wear shoulder pads. Okay, that is specifically designed for lacrosse. Okay, ready to go on?
Yep.
Okay.
So
the lacrosse, yeah, go ahead.
no, I got you, please.
Oh, okay. The rules committee believes that the head coaches, and they are responsible and want the head coaches to make sure that they monitor the team for sportsmanship in their players and assistant coaches, and particularly their assistant coaches. The players, the players are the last ones, but if they see the coaches not being very sportsmanlike, it filters down onto the field, and we always seem to have that happen. If we have a coach who's out there yelling and screaming at us from the very first whistle, it's going to happen, and the players are going to do it, and then the team will suffer. Just so you know, okay? Emphasis this year, their contact to the head and neck. They want that called by us. They're telling us to call it. 2 or 3 minute non-releasable penalties. Excessively violent may result in ejection. Now that's at the high school level. There's a may in there for us. I'm very happy to see that and I'm hoping that the NCJLA's action to make those players and have those players ejected is going to catch on, because but that's a typical NFHS. Everything is a may until they get so many complaints, then they change it. Defenseless player, a body check, and if he's just looking up, even if he sees him coming, it's a foul. You need to understand that. That's a defenseless player, even if he sees that player coming, even if he looks up. Okay. Targeting, if we see a player target, they're going to be ejected from the game. Okay. You can see it. Everybody can see it. If he runs 15 yards and takes out a player, that's targeting. He's actually, I guess the term is lined him up. If he lines him up, he's going to get ejected from the game. Okay. So next slide, please. Oh, there's the one about the questionnaire. Okay. Restarts. Let's talk about the restarts. The restarts. This is there was another deck that I sent to Chris, but that's fine. You'll see it in if you go online and you see the NFHS rules interpretation, you'll see lots of video show how that restart should happen. Okay, many questions came up about the player within 5 yards. It's not 5 yards from the spot where we called it in. One of the emphasis they gave us on this restarts is making sure that they start reasonably close to where the ball went out of bounds. So on an end line shot, for instance, if it goes out to the far right-hand side behind the net, they don't want them to just pick up a ball that's directly behind the net. They want us to stop the game and move them. That will slow the game down. Okay. Next one clearly tells you, and then you'll see the bold print. I believe, Chris, you did that. That's good. I didn't do that. You must have a direct path to the goal. Okay. The defending player can't play the player with the ball, the attackman, unless he's already satisfied the 5 yards. Okay. Now it's a delay of game foul, but that doesn't preclude us, the officials, from making a call. If he takes a swipe at him with the stick and he hits him on the arm, it will be a slash, and he will be put in for that. It's not just purely a technical foul for delay of game. Okay. Hope you'll hold your questions till the end so that we can get through this. Next. Oh, this is about the future uniforms. Goalies shall wear chest protectors designed for lacrosse that meet the NOSCO standard, NOXI standard. You know, I think that as coaches, remember when you say yes to us about that every player is completely equipped and fully equipped and knows what to do, you know, it's on you at that time. I hate to say this, but when you ask that question, you have to, it's on you. So you have to make sure that those players are fully equipped and equipped properly. Okay. This is in 2021. That's next season, not this season, but next season. I keep forgetting what year this is. Effective January 1st, 2022, all field players shall wear shoulder pads designed for lacrosse that meet the NOXI standard. Okay, at the time of manufacture. I think if some of you who have been around a while, you realize and understand that it used to be that if they opened up the equipment concerning shoulder pads, if there was a Velcro, clearly they said that the manufacturer designed it to be without it. Well, we asked that question to the NFHS, and they said that that's not going to be the case in 2022. They will wear them, and they will have shoulder pads on. Okay. That would be a failure to wear proper equipment. 2022, in January 2022, they're actually making it a necessary that the home team will be required to wear white jerseys. Now, I won't answer any questions about white jerseys, off-white jerseys, until this actually goes into effect, because you know, I don't know what they really have in mind. A pure white jersey with just the numbers, I don't know. Okay, so that's what we know right now. Okay. Rule equipment changes. There is the insignia and the patch that needs to be on the equipment, especially for the goalies. You'll see the website that you can go to get that information. Please make sure that they have it. We're not, this is not about fashion. I mean, it's player safety. Okay. Next one, CBO. We don't typically use a CBO. As a matter of fact, Chris, we don't ever use a chief bench official.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's an extra official that stands at the table, and he has all of the authority of the officials on the table. On the field. John Boone is on. I noticed he came online. He knows what. Whenever a player has been awarded the ball for any reason, possession means the team is in possession. The rule book had so many things in there about possession, and it's a team possession. It's a pass. They changed it all, and they made the changes necessary. Okay. The next one. Now this one, I have to tell you that what this is leading to and what it will be this season. No longer will the onus be on the head coach to call a timeout if they think their player is dizzy or concussion-like symptoms. The officials will make that call on the field. They do take a test. It's a NFHS puts one out, and they get certified that they took the test and they understand what the symptoms are. Okay, we're not making a diagnosis, but if they have to do it and we make that call, the referee is going to be asking you questions. If that player comes back on the field, he's going to want to know if the trainer or a healthcare official has cleared them to come back to the game. Otherwise, they won't let them play. Okay, this is something that the NFHS is serious about. Okay, illegal cross. This shouldn't cause any controversy. It's now changed to where all fouls for an illegal cross are 2 minutes. Okay, and as you can see on the deck, the slide, they're all non-releasable. The cross can be corrected, can be used later in the game, but it's on the responsibility of the coach and the player to make sure that that stick is legal. If for some reason, it gets checked again, and we're not going to be looking for trouble. But if a coach decides he wants to have an equipment check on 22 because he had an illegal cross, which could happen, and he requests an equipment check on 22, and we find that the cross has been brought back into the game, it could lead to an unsportsmanlike conduct foul because you're told that it was illegal to be brought in and you needed to correct it. If you don't correct it, it could lead to further problems. Okay? Next, throwing the cross. At the youth level, we notice a lot. I can tell you, even I see it all the time. Throwing the cross. If they throw the cross at a player, the ball, or any game personnel, that's a personal foul. It's an unsportsmanlike. It's 1 to 3 minutes, non-releasable. Okay. They made throwing the cross other than the ball. I mean, it happens all the time. But what it really means is, when I asked the question in Vegas, what it really means is the player will have to come to the sideline. If a lot of face-off players, they do the face-off and then they run to the sideline and they throw their cross to the bench to get their other stick, and then the other stick comes out. You need to know that if that happens this year, that will be a technical foul, 30-second technical foul for throwing the cross. He needs to come all the way to the sideline. He doesn't need to come off the field, but he does need to come all the way to the sideline and take that stick physically. Do not throw the cross. It is a 30-second penalty. Okay. NCJLA modifications to either the NFHS or the U.S. lacrosse rules. Chris, I saw your email. Okay, we can go to the first one before I ask that question. Head coaches. This is the area where I commend the NCJLA for and during the pregame to bring the sideline managers in. I think that's important because sideline managers need to know what we're talking about. Okay. Also, coaches' cards for each participating coach. Up to 4 coaches are permitted now on the sideline. Not that we want to sit around counting. But coaches who do not have NCJLA certified cards shall not stand on the team side of the field or coach from the spectator side of the field. This is a point of emphasis for the NCJLA. Let's make it happen. Work with us. We're not out there to nitpick with you guys. We would just as soon watch the game go. So having said that, we move on. The next one is number 1, cross-check hold. Unfortunately, this is my slide, right?
Yes.
I think I took this right from your.
Yeah.
Look, it's just a hold, a legal hold, okay? Because it's technically saying it's a cross-check. What is it? Is it a cross-check or is it a hold? Which is it? Cross-checking is a 1-minute penalty. Even our officials say it's cross-check hold, it's permitted, okay? but there cannot be no thrusting motion. If we see the thrusting motion, it's a cross check. But holding is allowed, is permitted under the guidelines. Okay, their hands can't be more than shoulder length apart. Okay, they have to keep their hands, and they can't thrust forward. As soon as they extend their arms, there will be a flag. Okay, at all youth levels, all stick checks, body checks, except at 8U, which we don't do, and U10, no body checking. Legal holds, legal pushes must be on the player in possession of the ball within 3 yards of the ball. And I believe that's at U15 and U14 and U12 too as well, Chris. It's 3 yards.
Yeah, 3 yards, and that's a point of clarification that we included at the end.
Yeah, okay, I just want to make sure because even some of our officials, they think it's 5, but it's 3. Targeting. A player shall not intentionally take aim at an opponent's head for the purpose of making violent contact. That's not what this game is about. Okay, the penalty for targeting is an ejection. Okay, however, you must know that I have to admit to you that we sometimes, this is something that we've made a specific thrust on all our meetings, that because we miss it. Our guys are just not understanding that we don't want them ejected from the game because it rides up. The rule clearly states that if it rides up, okay, it is not ejectionable. It's still the same severe foul, but if it rides up to the head or neck, it's not. We're not going to be ejecting people. We've made it a point of emphasis this year in all our training sessions. Our officials need to understand. So please, try not to argue with the officials about it. I know how difficult that can be from time to time, especially in some areas that we've had. Okay, so one-handed stick checks, okay, that's considered a slash at all youth levels. Okay, it is permitted at the high school. I want to preface this by saying that NFHS rules apply to all NCGLA club high school games, JV and varsity. So there is no exceptions or differences. Those are the NFHS rules. Please make yourself familiar with that if you're a high school coach. Okay, goalie, time-serving penalties. It's important that when an official, I know I did it, and a coach got angry with me because I made him tell me who was the starting defenseman. He said, well, I already gave you my in-home. If you don't have a second goalie, which we understand, and that's the reason it's made this way, so that you don't have to stand there, use a timeout, change goalie's equipment. The starting defenseman will serve the penalty. Am I correct in saying that? Mm-hmm. Chris? That's
yes.
What we're doing. And both teams will have the option of using a nominated defender rule. Okay. Restarting play, we will no longer wait for the 5 yards. However, please understand what the rule says. A player can be 3 yards from the offensive player, okay, and run all the way down the field. It's not a foul, but he can't play him. He can't touch him. He can't get in his way. He must give him a clear path to the goal. Okay. Offensive players are not allowed. They have to be 5 yards back. Okay, because they're the plays where they stand there and they fake that, they can't do that. Everybody has to give that clear path. Okay, fouling out. I get this call every Saturday morning. It's 4 personal fouls or 5 minutes of foul time. Okay, what that really means is if they just going along, they get 4 personal fouls, they're not ejected, they're disqualified from the game. But a player can have 2 personal fouls and still have 5 minutes of foul time. And it's personal foul time, by the way, Chris. It's not just foul time, personal foul time. So that means that he could get a slash and could be excessively violent and could be 2 minutes, and he gets 2 minutes for that. And then he targets a player, and that's 3 minutes. He's fouled out, and he's only had 2 personal fouls. I wanted to make that clear. Okay, technical fouls don't count towards it. Okay, multiple technical fouls, that's a rule that says that if a team or a player continually commits a technical foul, he can get an unsportsmanlike conduct foul. Okay. For 8U, we're using U.S. lacrosse rules, or
Yes.
yes,
8U, 10U,
okay.
US lacrosse with NCJLA modifications.
Right. Okay. All right.
All right.
Next one is yours, Chris.
Yes. So there's a lot of consistency this year between the U.S. lacrosse rule changes and the NFHS, because the U.S. lacrosse rules are focused specifically with our 8U, 10U teams. The ones that are applicable for this year in terms of the rule changes is number 4, with respect to the no man down penalties. So at both the 8U, 10U, teams will not play man down or man up. Players that commit a time-serving personal or technical foul must be substituted out of the game and remain in the penalty area for the duration of their penalty time or until the opposing team scores a goal. So that's probably the most significant U.S. lacrosse rule change for this year.
So we will be. So I need to make sure, Chris, that we're going to be. They don't play man down. They just play with that player in the penalty area, and then you have the same amount of players.
Yes, correct.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I will use this as a point of emphasis at the general meeting on January 19th for all officials so that they understand it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. And I'm calling it out again just because it was a frequent item that was confused last year. One last time, we've already covered these, but just to reiterate it, because these are the two. So we've got at all youth levels, all stick checks, body checks, except for 8U, 10U, no body checks, legal holds and legal pushes must be on a player in possession of the ball or within 3 yards. That's the specific point to call out. There was confusion for some reason. People were saying 5 yards last year. It is 3 yards. The second one was the fouling out rule. So 4 personal fouls or 5 minutes of foul time. So we've already covered that. But those were the 2 from last year that really stood out. So trying to reinforce those as much as possible. Okay. So along with this, this session it is being recorded and will be posted on the boys landing page for you to reference at a later time should you need to, or to send out the link to those other members in your organization. There are these additional video resources that are very helpful with clarifying in probably more granular detail that we went through today, the different rule changes for this year. The 2020 NFHS Boys Rules Interpretation video is really good. It's a professionally packaged video that includes examples of players on field doing things. So I highly recommend that you guys review that as soon as possible and forward that link on to as many of your coaches as you can.
That's only a 12-minute video, by the way. You should know it's only 12 minutes. It's not like a webinar where it takes an hour, or whenever Chris gives something, it takes an hour and a half or 2 hours. This is a 12-minute video, and it's very helpful. And I know it helps the officials, and I'm sure it will help you. It'll give you plenty of guidance on how the calls are going to be made on the field.
You got it. With that said, I'll open up the time now to any questions that you guys may have that you can. You could either include in the chat if you have that, or if you just want to speak up, please feel free to do so now.
Yeah, I have a question. This is Scott with Pleasant Grove.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So regarding concussion testing, we have a request from a parent that is asking if they did a concussion test for another sport within the last year, is that acceptable to NCGLA, or do they need to do one specific for lacrosse?
I think they're specific. Well, the tests that we require coaches and parents and everybody to take is I think from the CDC. So if it's the CDC test that they took for another sport, they're fine. It just needs to be submitted. If it's a separate test, they will need to take, I believe, the CDC one.
Okay, so it has to be a CDC test. Got it.
It's listed within the operations guide, the specific tests that are acceptable for the concussion protocol.
Okay, thank you.
We got a chat question here from Jen. It says, throwing across question, if a boy throws across while on the sideline, is this also a penalty?
Okay. That is, when you say, it depends on what he's throwing the cross at. If he's just frustrated and he's, just being a jerk and throwing the cross to the ground, or just throwing it at the bench because he's frustrated with himself, it could be construed as an unsportsmanlike conduct foul. So, I don't think there's been very many of those. I'm sure that question comes up probably because your child probably got one. But they must maintain control and good sportsmanship. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. We got another one that says, no man up or down at 10U rule change. Is this including the 10A teams? Seems like it is, but wanted to make sure. The rule itself was recently clarified for me today, so I can't answer that with 100% certainty, but I'll make sure that it does get answered because I understand that difference.
Chris.
Yes.
We were told that there is no different rules for U10A or B.
Yeah, then there's your answer. There's your authority.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying that's what we were told.
No.
Now, if there is something different, we need to know about it too.
Right. No, that take that as your authority and your word.
Okay.
The rationale behind it. What's the rationale behind that ruling? Yes, I think, the chat question that Todd's asking, the rationale behind, I'm assuming you mean the not playing up or down. Yeah, maybe. Yes, especially at the 10A. I think with respect to, when the kids are playing at the 10A, with less players already on the field, I know that that's one of the considerations, that at that age level, wanting to have the kids that are that young not necessarily have to go through playing with a man down. Your point in terms of the A division, I understand it. I think at this point it's just a uniform decision that goes with the age, with the division. If this turns out to be something of a problem, we can definitely review it and discuss it internally to try and figure out how to proceed. It is a change this year, so it's a relatively new thing for us. But I think at that age level, the idea is to try and simplify as much of the rules as we can at that age division, and then not have a situation where you're having teams play. There are already less players on the field, but have them play shorthanded on top of that.
It's like an entry-level position. They shouldn't have to suffer that at that age.
Yeah. Let's see. Todd followed up with an additional chat item. Says, one of the helpful teams to teach the kids about not hurting their teams is when you have a man down. Just 2 cents. Kids getting penalties do it less when they hurt their team. Yeah, we'll definitely take that into consideration with that.
What?
We got any other questions coming up? Okay. All right, last chance. Okay, well, I think that's it. Well, I want to thank everybody again for calling in tonight. Really appreciate your time. Mike, thank you so much for all the work that you put in and being available to us tonight to help with clarifying these rule changes for the season. I don't know if, with respect to on-site visits, what your group's capacity is at this point, if it's still there, or what do they need? What do clubs need to do
if they still need it? If they still need it, they can call me, and I'll put it in my calendar. I already am scheduling, just so you know, a webinar with Gold Country.
Okay.
So they're going to be their club is going to be putting together, and I'm going to set up a webinar similar to this so that we can go over the rules. This is probably where you get the most participation. I believe that's why Chris and I wanted to do this. This way, you're not driving to a place. You don't have to drive any great distance to see it, to hear the presentation. And but we are available, and if you have a specific meeting that you need to have an official there, we'll do our very best to get somebody there. If not, you'll probably get stuck with me.
Good deal. Well, if that's it, if after this call you either think of a question, or if you're reviewing this video after it's been posted and have a question, please reach out to either Mike or myself for clarification. You know, there's a lot of different moving parts to the rules each year, especially working with two separate organizations. And, you know, we do our best to try and get in front of everything, but, you know, sometimes the community brings things to our attention that we either haven't thought about or that we need to clarify. So we welcome, you know, any feedback that you guys have after the fact. And, you know,
one thing,
everything seriously.
Chris, if I might.
Yes.
While the coaches listen, sometimes Chris and I get a lot of calls about officials, and I want to specifically address this. You know, it's easier for the officials, in particular me, if I have something substantial from you, not just he said, she said, but if you have some film that clearly shows an official being unsportsmanlike or not being professional, feel free to send it to me, because I can tell you that right now all the officials have my telephone number with my name attached to it, and when I call them, they want to know. The first thing they say is, okay, what did I do? What game are we talking about? I didn't do it. So, but if you have something specific, it's more helpful for me to see, and Chris, when we try to settle these issues. Okay, if there's some film or something that shows the official doing something out of line, please send it to me. Don't be afraid to talk to me. Okay, thanks, Chris.
You got it. Well, with that, I will say thank you to everybody one last time, and that will conclude our rules session for this year. I do appreciate everybody's time and wish everybody good luck this season.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.